The cottage ruler by Creative Grids was designed by Mary Jane Mattingly and Susan Knapp to go with several of their books and patterns. This ruler is the cottage version. It also comes in a house version, which is a little larger. These rulers allow you to cut basically every shape under the roof. You can cut half square triangles, quarter square triangles, barn shapes, house shapes, parallelograms, quarter square triangles, and about any other shape that you would like to do. And we'll show you how to do that right now. When cutting any of these shapes, start with a perfect right angle on the edge of your fabric. And then in this case, to cut half square triangles, you place the ruler on here. In this particular case, we want to cut half square triangles that are going to finish to 2 inches. So we place this ruler on here. So this center line is placed on the bottom of the strip, and the side straight angle is at the 2 7/8 inch point. When I want to cut my second half square triangle, I will take the ruler, and this time I will place it so the top of the ruler is on the top of the strip, and this edge is on the 2 5/8 inch mark, and then I can cut with a rotary cutter right here, and I can continue to alternate the ruler until I've cut an entire strip of half square triangles. I can do the same thing, alternating fabrics, and when I sew those pieces together, I will have a perfect 2 inch finished half square triangle. When I want to cut quarter square triangles, I will take the ruler, and first I have to cut the first angle I need for my quarter square triangle. And so that this is not a wasted piece, I cut it using the 2 7/8 inch line here, so then this can be half of a 2 inch finished half square triangle. So I can set those aside and use them for another project. This time then I have the angle I need, and when I want to do a quarter square triangle, I simply take the black tip and place it off the fabric here, and this is going to be placed on the 2 5/8 inch line. When I rotary cut this, I am going to have 1/4 of my quarter square triangle. When I sew it to an alternate fabric, I will end up with a quarter square triangle that looks like this. If I want to cut right-facing trapezoids, the pattern normally has you measure the bottom edge and you want the finish size. So in this case, if I wanted to finish 4 inches, then I have to add 7/8 inches. So I would place the ruler on here, so the bottom of the ruler is lined up with the bottom of the strip, and this is lined up with the 4 7/8 inch mark. So when I cut this, I'm going to end up with a piece like this. In order to cut the next piece, I'll place this on here so the 4 7/8 inch line is at this right angle, the tip of this right angle, and cut right here, and then that will give me the other half of my trapezoid. If I cut these out of different fabrics and turn them, I'm going to end up with a piece that looks like that. In some cases, you are going to need left-facing trapezoids. In that case, I would place the ruler on my strip of fabric, and I would line up the center line with the top of the piece and the edge of the ruler at the 4 7/8 inch line for a finished trapezoid that is going to measure 2 inches high and 4 inches wide. I would then flip the ruler around like this and place the 4 7/8 inch mark on the bottom, line up the ruler, and cut the side, and I would have a mirror image of that trapezoid. If I cut those out of different fabrics like this, then I'm going to end up with a left-facing trapezoid that looks like this. This is the one that we cut with a right-facing trapezoid, so you can see how different they would look. You literally get a mirror image of your first one. To cut a 5-sided house shape, we would center the ruler, in this case, on a 4 1/2 inch square, because you cut your fabric a 1/2 inch wider than you want the finished size of the house to be. The tip is off at the top here, so I would line up the bottom at 4 5/8 inches and center it here on the 4 1/2 inch line, rotary cut these two angles up, and I would get a perfect house shape. Then I can add my triangles to this to complete my block. To cut left-skewed parallelograms, we need to first cut our first 45-degree angle. We can save this piece to make a half-square triangle later, and then we place our ruler on this so it lines up with the bottom edge here, and on the top edge we would place our ruler so it is at the 2 3/4 inch mark right here. Then we would simply rotary cut this and continue to cut these shapes the entire width of the piece. If we want to do right-skewed parallelograms, we would reverse the process or flip the fabric over and get the same result. By doing these in alternate fabrics, we would create a Lone Star type pattern by just alternating these, so you could put it in a border or make a diamond quilt. If you need to cut a trapezoid that has two 45-degree angles, in this case we cut our strip 2.5 inches, so the height of the trapezoid will be 2 inches. To the base of it, you need to add 1 1/4 inches to the finished size. In this case, we want this to finish 6 inches when we're done, so our base is going to be 7 1/4. We removed a right angle from the end, like we did before, and saved it to make half-square triangles. And then we're going to place the ruler on the fabric so the center line lines up with the top of the fabric, and we're going to move it down until the 7 1/4 inch marking here. When we do that, oops, I got the ruler marked wrong. Wait a minute, we got to do it. This has to be flipped. Can I do it just starting in here? So if you're going to do this, okay. So when the triangle is removed from the end, this gives us our first cut for the parallelogram. Then we place the ruler on the fabric, so this is lined up with the top edge, and on here we take this tip and place it on the 7 1/4 inch line. Then I can rotary cut this edge, and I am going to end up with my 7 1/4 inch trapezoid shape. I can sew these together to make a very attractive looking border, or combine them on the other side to make other shapes. If I want to cut a diamond from a square, I need to allow a 1/4 inch seam allowance on each side. So if I want a 4-inch finished diamond from a square, my square is actually 4.5 inches. In this case, I would take the ruler and center it between the marks right here at 4.5 inches, and the black tip will go off the edge of the ruler, and it's going to line up at the bottom with the 4 5/8 inch mark. I'll take this and rotary cut it, and then I'll flip the ruler around and do the same thing. I'm going to line the bottom up with the 4 5/8, the 1/8 inch is going to be at the top, and I'm going to take the long sides, and they're going to be at the 4.5 inch mark. The triangles that I'm removing from each side are the same size, and I'll end up with a diamond that looks like this. If I want to cut a diamond from a rectangle, I will use the same process that I did for the square, except I'm going to be cutting both sides and moving the ruler and rotating it and taking off each corner of the rectangle. If I want to cut a barn shape from a strip of fabric, in this case we wanted to finish 2 inches high and 4 inches wide, so I cut a rectangle that was 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches. Then I simply take my ruler and run it up the edge. This cut side over here is actually going to be at the 2 1/4 inch mark. This is at the top. I'll trim up that edge and take it over here, use the 2 1/4 inch marking on this side of the ruler. The black tip is going to be off the edge. The 2 5/8 will line up in the bottom. By removing the triangles on each corner of the rectangle, I have created the barn shape that I need for my projects. To get more information on this ruler or to download a set of instructions, visit our website at www.creativegridsusa.com.